This is Gemara and Yoma Daf Mem. All the learning for this month, the month of Sivan, has been generously sponsored as a tremendous chos shidduch for Yishal Chaim and Devaira. The learning of the entire Chabura Baruch Hashem, as I'm being told, is growing. Should continue being a special chos shidduch. For Yishal Chaim and Devaira, you should find the Ziva going with clarity in the right time, hopefully very quickly. Of course, all of our Chaylim, Rivka Bas Vasheva, and the Thili Siva Menach Esther, and many Ben Vega Chaim and Sar Shalom Sivan Rezil Sar Bas Kenendli, the Basinas Chaysay Yisrael Ben Mindol, Eliezer Perez Shavlei Shom Bas Noami Bashav Vega Shivachano Shmo Ben Tila Dinim Ben Chan Rezil Mulchay Bas Mina Livrach Bas Avia Musa Dinena Ben Shina Mindol Sivan Vega Berlin Michal Shvin the Teluva Machamenda Ben Taiba Besay Sharchali Israel as well as Shidduch Vatalei Bas Ita. We pick it up in the bottom of Lamed Tesam and Bees. Yesterday we began the Gemara, and today we're going to re-begin it because this is going to be the entire day's discussion. Is going to center around this machlekes Rav Yanai and Rav Yochanan, whether the lottery, whether the drawing of the two lots, the Lashem, the Lazazel, the Kohen Gadol sticking his hands into that wooden box, pulling up the two cards, hopefully getting Lashem in the right hand, which was a wonderful omen, a wonderful sign. Whether that lottery is integral, or let's say they didn't do the lottery, he just said Lashem. Or let's say after he did the lottery, he didn't place it on the animals. Those two stages, that is the discussion. So we pick it up in the bottom of Lamed Tesam and Beis, about 12 lines in the bottom. First one on the line is Ketayres. Amar Rav Yanai, one more time. Aliyas Gairo Mitakilfa Klafi Makeves. Says Rav Yanai, the Gairo, the drawing of those lots, that's ma'akiv, that's integral. If you don't draw it, the avodah is possible. Hanocha but the placing on the animal, that's not integral, says Rav Yanai. And Rav Yochanan Amar Afaliyah Eino Ma'akeves, the drawing itself is not ma'akiv. So machlokes Rav Yanai and Rav Yochanan at face value, whether you need to draw the lots. Rav Yanai says yes. Rav Yochanan says if you didn't, it's okay. It does not invalidate the avodah. Now the Gemara explains what is the machlekes. Aliba de Rav Yehuda. Whoa, who's Rav Yehuda? So let's pause. Let's look at Rashi for a moment. Rashi quotes the Gemara. Rashi Divrei Amaska Aliba de Rav Yehuda, which is smack in the middle of the Amud. Rashi quotes that we're going to see it later in Daf Samach. There's machlekes Rav Yehuda and Rav Nechemia. What is the story? Imshina b'seder avodah is lahaktim esem ha'ocher. Let's say you do the order of the avodah on Yom Kippur in the wrong order, and Rav Nechemia says, "Kol zeder avodah shenasa big day lavan, ve'im bifneim kon lefnei lefneim maybe achot kigoin ve'hechlo ba'azara ma'akif." When Nechemia says all white cloth begad avodas are ma'akif. The chayka dechsiva binyana dachrei ma'is alayu ksiva. It says chayk, meaning it's important, it's integral. It's said about any avodah wearing white. That's from Nechemia. Rav Yehuda argues and he says no, it doesn't say chayk. Rather, only with items that are done by big day lavan bifnim. Helkach. So what comes out of this machlekes? Ha'agarola, the lottery she'enay nas bifnim. It's not done inside the kodesh hakdashim. It's true. It's done with the white begadim. That is the integral difference between Rav Nechemia and Rav Yehuda. Ela b'chos, the Rav Yehuda damar dvarim she'nas b'chos lo yiksi b'chuka. According to Rav Yehuda, it is not going to be integral, whereas according to Rav Nechemia, it will be ma'akiv. That is the machlokes. So now the Gemara is trying to figure out this machlokes Rav Yanai and Rav Yochanan. How does it relate to the previous machlokes, the earlier Tanaim, Rav Yehuda and Rav Nechemia, their machlokes? So explains the Gemara. Aliyah de Rav Yehuda Damar. We're back in the Gemara, 8 lines from the bottom. According to Rav Yehuda, that says Dvarim Manasa Big Dilavan Mibachutz. That the service is done with white clothing outside and the azar are not ma'akev. So then there's no machlekes Rav Yanai and Rav Yochanan. Everyone will agree, according to Rav Yehuda, that the gairel, the lottery, is not ma'akev. What is the machlekes Rav Yanai and Rav Yochanan? Again, there was an earlier Tanaic dispute, and now we have a latter dispute between Rav Yanai and Rav Yochanan. So you have to figure out, there's a latter dispute, how does it relate to the earlier machlekes? So says the Gemara, according to Rav Yehuda, everyone's going to agree that the lottery is not ma'akiv. What's the machlekes Rav Yanai and Rav Yochanan? Kibliga liba Rav Nechemia. Man davar ma'akiv. It's like Rav Nechemia. It's ma'akiv. It's integral. Man davar lo ma'akva. Why not? Why would Rav Yochanan say it's not ma'akiv? Hani mili avoida b'hagrol alav avoidi. So we're already getting one svara why the lottery might be different. Says the Gemara. Rav Yochanan says it's not ma'akiv. You know why? Even according to Rav Nechemia, because it's a lottery. A lottery is not a proper avodah in the Beis Hamikdash on Yom Kippur. That is lashon number 1 of how to learn this machlokes Rav Yanai and Rav Yochanan. Igedi Amri, a second way of learning, and let's hone in right now, because the Gemara's, lots of its questions are going to center around this Igedi Amri and the way the Igedi Amri explains Rav Yanai. So let's focus in. Says the Gemara, Igedi Amri, 6 lines from the bottom. Okay, according to Rav Nechemia, that says the lottery is integral. White clothing, even outside, is integral, so therefore everyone's going to agree. What's the machlokes Rav Yana and Rav Yochanan? Leave it to Rav Yehuda. What about Rav Yehuda? It's not integral. According to Rav Yochanan, it says it's not makva. It's great. Rav Yehuda. Rav Yana. What's his answer? Says Rav Yana, we have a special exercise of teaching us it's ma'akiv. So that's going to be the machlokes. 2 different l'shainis. How the machlokes Rav Yana and Rav Yochanan relates back to the machlokes Rav Yehuda and Rav Nechemia. And again, as I just pointed out, let's focus in on the second version, the way that explains Rav Yana. The second version, one more time, is that everyone agrees that, according to Rav Nechemia, that holds that it's ma'akiv, the white clothing outside the Beis Hamikdash in the Azara is integral. Everyone will agree to that. The machlokes is within Rav Yehuda's opinion. Rav Yehuda holds it's not ma'akiv. So Rav Yochanan is understandable. What about Rav Yanai? Rav Yanai has a special pasuk. Meisvei says, Gemara, 2 lines from the bottom. We learned in a brayso, mitzvah. It's a mitzvah. What does mitzvah sound like? That's already a key. It doesn't sound like it's very important. Mitzvahs are incredible, but it's not an obligation per se. Mitzvah lahagril, to the gairil. Vim lahigril kosher. If you didn't do the gairil, it's okay. So now the Gemara explains. According to this lashon, according to the first way of explaining the machlokes, that everyone agrees, according to Rav Yehuda, that it's not integral. Hamani Rav Yehudi, it's great. So this brisa fits beautifully with Rav Yehuda. The brisa says it's a mitzvah. What does mitzvah mean? Mitzvah mean it's a great thing to do, but it's not ma'akiv. So that's going with Rav Yehuda, the earlier Tana Rav Yehuda. Everything is good and dandy. Turning over to Memam and Aleph, Elahach Lishna, but according to the second lashon, the Amri Pligi, that they're going to debate this point, the opinion of Rav Yehuda. So Bishlam Mandar Malay Makva Mani Rav Yehuda. Great. According to the Mandar, it says it's not Makiv, it's very good. That's Rav Yehuda. Now this latter bryce that says it's a mitzvah. Mitzvah meaning, but it's not as integral as everything. It's not Makiv. That's great. Elo Lemandar Makva, according to Rav Yanai. Rav Yanai holds it's Makiv. Hamani, this brisa doesn't work. According to Rav Yanai, it's ma'akiv, the gairil. But we have a brisa that says it's only a mitzvah. It's only a mitzvah, meaning it's not ma'akiv. How you, Rav Yanai, are you going to explain this brisa? Answers the Gemara, Tini, mitzvah lehaniach. Remember, Rav Yanai had a second part of his statement. Rav Yanai said, the gairil is ma'akiv, but the placement is not makiv, it's not as integral. So the Gemara now answers and says, we can redefine the brisa when it says mitzvah lahagril. It doesn't mean necessarily to make the gairil, but it means la'aniach, to place the cards on the animal. So that was question number 1 on the second version according to Rav Yanai, and the Gemara defends. And now we have another question on the same second version according to Rav Yanai. Tashama mitzvah lahagril u'le'zavados. Says this brisa, we have a mitzvah to do a gairil and to do vidoy. Lo yihigrov lo yisvada. Let's say you didn't. Kosher, it's okay. Now, it's the same question. The Gemara preempts itself. Maybe you're going to answer me. You know how Rav Yanai is going to learn over here? Switch the word. It doesn't mean lahagril. It means laniach. It means to place the cards on the animal. Says the Gemara, you can't say that in this brisa. Because the Seifa says Rav Shimon Aimer lo yihigril kosher. If you didn't do the gairil, it's okay. Lo hizvada apostle. Okay, so Rav Shimon is making up 2 levels here. 2 levels we haven't seen, and we're now going to have to define them. We have a level of hegril, making the gairil. We have a level of hizvada, of saying the vidui. Explains the Gemara, what does Rav Shimon mean? My loy hegril. What does Rav Shimon mean he didn't do the gairil? If he means you didn't place the cards, Rav Shimon savar, hagrola ma'akiv, it's going to mean that what? Loy hegril. If you didn't place the cards, it's kosher, But lo'isvada apostle, what's the word lo'isvada going to have to mean now? The words are going to have to mean gairol, because the word higrol meant meniach, place, and the word isvada now is going to have to mean gairol. So you're going to come out that the opinion of Rav Shimon is that the gairol, the lottery itself, is integral. It can't be. V'atanya, we learned in a different brayso, meis echad bahen. What happens if one of the two goats, we have these two goats sitting here, one of them drops dead? What's the halacha? Maybe chaveira shloi behagrala divrei Rav Shimon. Rav Shimon says you bring another animal, just one, and you don't do a gairol. So you see clearly, according to Rav Shimon, is it integral? The answer is no, because he's allowing you to bring another animal and not having to do another gairol. So Rav Shimon can't learn the gairol is mi'akev. So Rav Shimon can learn the gairol is mi'akev. You cannot define the brayso as the word higrol, meaning meniach, to place it. So we're back to our question on Rav Yanai. According to the second version, we see that what did Rav Yanai hold? Rav Yanai held that it is ma'akev, but there's no, it is ma'akev, meaning if you didn't do the gairol, it's possible. We see clearly in this brayso that says if you didn't do the gairol, it is kosher. Explains the Gemara, Rav Shimon lo yada mai kamer rabbanan. No, I'll tell you a different way to learn the seifa, which is where the question is coming from. A different way how Rav Shimon is going to learn. Rav Shimon didn't understand, lo yada mai kamer rabbanan, didn't understand the Tanakama. Again, what did the Tanakama say? Tanakama said mitzvah lahagrel ulis vadois. Both the gairol and the vidoy are only a mitzvah. If you didn't do them, it's still kosher. Says the Gemara. You know what Rav Shimon says? I don't know what you mean, Rabbanan. This is what Rav Shimon says to the Tanakama. Hagrola mamish. When you just said it's a mitzvah to the gairol, if you mean just the lottery, then I argue with you about one din. What's the one din I argue about? I argue about the vidoy. But if when you, the Tanakama, said mitzvah lahagrul isvadlis, you meant hanacha, then I'll argue on two, but it's not going to be a question on Rav Yanai could learn that the word higrol means meniach, and therefore Rav Yanai could learn that the gairol is yes going to be ma'akev, it's yes going to be integral. So far, two questions on Rav Yanai according to the second version, the second way of learning of the Tanakh dispute between Rav Yehuda and Rav Nechemya, and two defenses for Rav Yanai. Question number 3. Tashema, says the Gemara about 12-13 lines down. Par ma'akiv es hasoyer. The halacha is, we have an entire avodah. We have an entire avodah in the Beis Hamikdash, many different steps, but the two parts of the avodah we're going to focus in on right now is the par and the sa'ir. You shechted the par first, the sa'ir second. You place the dam of the par first, the dam of the sa'ir second. There were two placings of the dam and the sa'ir, one time on the kapay, one time the fnaiv lefnim, bein abadim, we call between the bowls on the curtain, and the second time is on the paroiches. So again, par always comes before a sa'ir. Says the Gemara, par ma'akiv is a sa'ir, v'sa'ir ein ma'akiv is a par. The brayso says the par is ma'akiv the sa'ir, but not vice versa. B'matanai shebifnim. In the applications inside. Says the Gemara, what does this brayso mean? And this is going to result in a question on Rav Yanai. V'shlama par ma'akiv is a sa'ir, di'akadmi l'sa'ir makmi par loy aved loy klam. If you do the sa'ir before the par, it's nothing, because the par has to come first. That I understand. El sa'ir ein ma'akiv is a par. What does it mean that the sa'ir is not ma'akiv the par? My niu. Ilema, if you're going to tell me you know what it means, di'akti matanis de par, behechol makmi matanis de seir bifnim. If you're going to tell me that's what it means, it's not possible. Again, we just said there's two karbanis. There's a par and a sa'ir. The par goes first, sa'ir goes second. Inside goes first, heichal goes second. So let's go par inside, seir inside. Par in the heichal, seir in the heichal. Says the Gemara, you know what maybe the brayso means? Maybe what the brayso means is that if you did the par in the heichal, which again, the heichal is always supposed to be second, before the seir in the inside. So you jump the gun. Says the Gemara, that can't either be, because chukak sivbu, it has to be in the appropriate order. Says the Gemara, Elalav, you know what it must mean? It must mean that the placing of the blood came before the lottery. And therefore, what do we see? And we see that it does not make it possible. Umisadra loy ma'akva. Ikra hagrala nami loy ma'akra. So says the Gemara, what would we see from this brisa? It would come out from this brisa that if the lottery itself is also not integral, just like the order when the lottery is done is not integral. Basically, to make a bit of a complicated story simple, we have a brisa, and the brisa is saying something is okay, something is not ma'akiv. And we're trying to prove that what the brisa is referring to is the order when the lottery was performed. If the order when the lottery was performed is not integral, says the Gemara, seemingly the lottery itself is not integral. That's a kasha in Rav Yanai. Because Rav Yanai said the lottery is integral. If you don't have the lottery, it's no good. Again, a third question on the opinion of Rav Yanai. Answers the Gemara, 10 lines from the bottom, loy. That's not the way to learn this brisa. No, it's referring to a later stage. Later, at the end of the whole avodah, they would mix the two dams together. Then they would put it on the Mizbeach. So what the Brisa means is that he did the mixed blood on the Mizbeach before he did the Seir in the Heichal. And it's going according to Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Dvar Manasseh, Big Deal Love and Bachotz, Loi Me'akva. It's not Ma'akiv, but it does not talk to anything about the lottery. Havamina it was talking about the lottery. Maskan is no. It's talking about a different stage in Avodah, mixing the blood and placing it on the Mizbeach before the dam of the seir. Says the Gemara, 1 second. The Brisa says that it's talking about bifnim, seemingly by the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Says the Gemara, this Brisa must be going according to the opinion of Rav Shimon, who says that the Agrola is not Ma'akiv, and Rav Yana is going to disagree. Again, our entire premise of today's entire discussion was Rav Yanai in an explanation of Rav Yehuda and Rav Nechemya. Rav Shimon argues on Rav Yehuda and Rav Nechemya. So great, so this price will be Rav Shimon. Rav Shimon is going to be the opinion that says Agrola loy ma'akva, and Rav Yanai doesn't have a problem saying that according to me, because I was explaining according to Rav Yehuda and Rav Nechemya. Teres number 1, teres number 2, by same letter Rav Yehuda, Yunihid, Divisidra le ma'akva, Agrola miya me'akva. We'll go back to the previous way of learning, and we're going to say the fact that the order is not ma'akiv, what does that do with the lottery itself? Maybe when the lottery is performed is not as important, but you have to at least perform the lottery. And where we know that, and there's a precedent for, and that would be the second way of answering the question. Okay, so we have 3 questions on Rav Yanai. The third question was, we'll call it the biggest. In the third one, the Gemara folded a bit in the first answer and said that price is going with Rav Shimon, Rav Yanai is going with Rav Yehuda and Nechemya, and the second brisa is that no, just the order is not ma'akiv, but Rav Yanai could hold his own, that the lottery itself is yes ma'akiv. But now we go back to a machlekes between the Tanakam and Rav Shimon, whether the vidoy of the vidoy by the seir la'azozel, whether that vidoy is integral or not. This takes us back. This is the way that Rashi is learning it, so we're going to go with that. Va'azda litaymayu. We'll actually look at the Rashi for a moment before we turn the Amid. Rashi says, "Aplukta delayis vadakai." If you didn't do the vidoy, umikmi tashema par makis asir garsina lane, it really belongs all the way up top. Says the Gemara va'azda litaymayu. The Tanya we learned in a brisa. Moving along to mem Amid base. Again, now we're switching a bit. We started off today the whole discussion of Yanai about the goyrel itself. Now we're going into the world of vidoy on Memamid Beis. Says the Pasuk Yamar Chaylev Nei Hashem Lechaber Alav, that has to stand alive in front of Hashem to be a kapara. Explains the Gemara, Ad Mosa Yezakuk Lamer Chay. Until when does it have to stand alive? Ad Shas Matan Damai Shel Chaveiroi. Until the other carbon. This is talking about the first. It's talking about the Azazel, the animal being thrown off the cliff, has to be alive until it's Chaveiroi, till the Matan Damai of its friend, the Seir Hashem is placed. Rav Yehuda, Rav Shimon Aimer, Ad Shas Vidoy. No, it has to be alive until Ad Shas Vidoy Dvarim. So what is this machlekes Rav Yehuda and Rav Shimon? Says Says the Gemara, that what does this word lechaper? Lechaper alav, as we see in the top line. What's this referring to? We're talking about the seir la'azazel. What gives you the kapara? Says the Gemara, kapara is damim, the blood of what? Of the seir la'ashem, and that's the reason why we have two animals. Again, we have one animal thrown off a cliff, another animal bringing as a carbon. Says the Gemara, according to one opinion, the animal being thrown off a cliff has to be alive. As long as the animal being brought as a carbon, you bring the dam on the mizbeach. Why? Because that's what brings you the kabara. As we see in the pasuk, so Rav Yehuda holds what gives you the kapara of the seir la'azazel being thrown off the cliff, the damim, the placement of the blood of the seir la Hashem. Rav Shimon Omer no l'chaber lo v'kabaras dvarim ha'kasa mitaber. So the Gemara wants to suggest that the machlokes between the Tanakama and Rav Shimon, whether vidui is integral, is the machlokes Rav Shimon and Rav Yehuda. As we see over here, what does Rav Shimon hold? Rav Shimon holds that the kapara is with the vidui. Obviously, Rav Shimon holds that the kapara is the vidui is integral. What does Rav Yehuda hold? Rav Yehuda says no way. Rav Yehuda says the kapara is with the damim. The vidui is non-integral. Says the Gemara. Okay, that is how we're going to learn up the machlokes about vidui. That was a bit of almost a sidebar, which is why Rashi said it should have been placed up top. Now we go back into the lottery, back into Rav Yanai. Now, says the Gemara, we started off today, machlokes Rav Yanai, 3 questions on Rav Yanai, 3 defenses in Rav Yanai. Now, says the Gemara, let's prove that everyone holds that the Geirel is integral. Tashema, Shalu Talmid Bes Rav Kiva. Let's say if in his left hand it says Lashem and he wants it to be in his right hand, he wants the Siman Bracha. Is he allowed to switch it into his right hand? Amr lehem, I'll take no, don't do that. You're giving a place for the Sadukim to start, to rebel. You're giving them a place to, another area where they could, come in and change the Avaida. Says the Gemara, what was his answer? He didn't answer, you're not allowed to switch it. It sounds like you could theoretically switch it, but don't do it for the Tzedukim. For that reason, you would yes be allowed to switch it. So therefore, what do we see? We see that the Geirel is not Ma'akiv. But you taught me that the Geirel is ma'akiv. How can you do that? So apparently we see that everyone's going to hold that the Geirel is not ma'akiv. If the Geirel, the drawing of the latch, was integral, you wouldn't be allowed to switch it. The Gemara said, are you allowed to switch it? Answer the Gemara, don't do it because of the Sedukim. Don't do it because of the Sedukim. Don't do it because the lottery is integral. And if you don't have a lottery, the whole Avaita is puzzle. For the fact that the Gemara said the other reason shows us, obviously, that the lottery is not integral. Amar Rava no raya. You're not switching the lottery. You're not taking the card off of that animal, putting it on the other animal. You're switching the animals, meaning you're pulling shtick to make it look as if the right animal was a La Hashem. It's not true. It's only the left animal. But you let it switch the animal side just so it looks that way, so people don't get nervous. Amr Lahem, on that he responded, but the actual lottery, we do not necessarily have a raya to. The Gemara says, let's bring another raya. Again, that was raya number 1, that everyone would hold the lottery is not as essential, it's not makiv. Now we flip it and let's bring a raya that the lottery is essential. Tashema, says the Gemara, Elu Nemar es Sa'ir. Ilu Nemar. If it had said es Sa'ir Asher Alav, if the pasuk says that Aaron should bring the seir, which is a carbon for Hashem, I would have thought Yanichenu Alav. I would have thought that he has to put the lottery, the card on the animal. Tamalaymar Allah, that it should come up, that Kivan Sha'Allah, once he drew the lot, he does not have to place it on the animal. Says the Gemara, says the Gemara, Lamai, what exactly is the Brisa referred to? If you're going to tell me that we're talking about the mitzvah, then michlal the hanacha mitzvah nami loy. Then you're telling me it's not even a mitzvah? Meaning, what was the brisa? What did the brisa mean when it said hayisi omer yanichenu alav ta'amulaymer Allah? You don't have to do it anymore. If it's about the mitzvah to place it, you tell me it's not even a mitzvah? Can't be. Elalav la'akev. The brisa must be, which of course the way that everyone thought when we read it the first time, is the placement of the cards Ma'akiv. And says the Gemara, Shema mina agrala ma'akva. So what do we see? We see that the goyrel is yes ma'akiv, anachalei ma'akva. A beautiful raya. Again, one more time. It says in the pasuk. It says in the pasuk. If it would have just said es asir asher Allah, I would have thought that you don't necessarily. Once you draw the lottery, you don't have to put it on it. Says the Gemara, no. For the fact that it says Allah shows me I have to put it on it. Says the Gemara, what does the brisa mean? It must mean to teach me that the goyrel itself is important, but the placement is not as important. So what do we see? A clear proof that the gairil is ma'akiv according to everyone. Amar Rava, says Rava, no, hachikam, this is what it means. Ilu namar asher alav. If it would have said on it, Yisrael would have said, Yan yichenu alav, place it on it. Ad shatz shchita. I would have thought you have to leave the lottery on the animal until you do the shchita. Tamlemer asher Allah, that kivan sha'Allah shavei sayrich, that it teaches me kivan sha'Allah. Once you put it on it, that's it. You don't have to leave it there the entire time until the shchita. So we do not necessarily have a raya. And now we have a final raya. Says the Gemara that the gairil is ma'akiv. Tashima v'osau chatos. It says in the Torah that he makes it into chatos. What does that teach us? Gairil osau chatos v'nashim osau chatos. Where does the animal become lahashem as a carbon chatos? From the gairil. Sheyachal, I would have thought v'alodinu with the kal v'chaymer. Uma b'makim shlei kiddush hagarol, in a place. What about in a place where the gairil does not give it sanctity, Kiddush Hashem, you're able to create a carbon verbally. So in a place where you can make a gairil, certainly you could do without it. That's specifically why the Torah says, V'asau chatos. What's V'asau referring to? That only the gairil is that which makes it into the lottery and not just being Kaira Shem. And who is this Bryce as we turn over to Mem Aleph Amid Aleph when we finish up for today? Who is this Bryce? Stam Sifra Mani Rav Yehuda. Who is the Stam Sifra? Is Rav Yehuda's opinion. The Katani, and what do we see? Ha Gairla Sachatas Vin Hashem Zachatas. Alma, what do we see? Ha Grala Me'akva. We see the Gairla is Ma'akev, says the Gemara. Te Yofta. That is a conclusive proof to Mandamar Agrala Lema Akva to Yofta. So after a long and extensive day, taking us almost a little more than a blat, we conclude that at the end of the day, the Gairol is not Ma'akev, and indeed it is a conclusive proof. And therefore, this brisa goes like Rav Yanai in the second version, who says that the gairol is me'akev. That's the tiyufta according to Mandamar that says gairol is not me'akev. So even though we started off the day asking multiple questions to Rav Yanai, he stood his own. Finally, at the end of the day, Rav Yanai tiyufta l'mandamar. Who is the tiyufta? According to the first version, both Rav Yanai and Rav Yochanan don't stand the test of time. According to the second version, Rav Yochanan, and the only one which stands is Rav Yanai in the second version, who says that according to Rav Yehuda, the gairol is ma'akev. So even though we started off the day with 3 questions on that Rav Yanai in the second opinion, at the end of the day, he is right. He is the one that ends up on top. Rav Yanai, according to Rav Yehuda, that the gairol is indeed ma'akev. We'll pick it up from here tomorrow.